but welcome to Murder Be with Doll Talk.
I think it clicked in right at welcome, so everybody missed you yawning.
I know. Did it? Oh, well,
I don't know.
just in
We'll
case
see.
you needed to know, right beforehand, I was yawning. So my eyes are a little watery. Can I go get sorry?
Are you feeling better?
A little. Getting there. But hopefully, we're hoping that all our tech issues are resolved. We're determined that Han's soul corrupted everything because we didn't have the same problem.
Sound was perfect. We had to do just like a little bit of volume tweaking, but normally it's Jody.
Other than
you
that,
can't hardly hear. And Jody's perfect. It was me.
It was awesome.
Yes.
It was awesome. So I'm just going to go ahead and tell you now that we're not going to do any cases pertaining to the Catholic religion ever again because they tap into our shit and they don't want stories to be told. So no more Catholic requests.
Yep. The cardinals and the Pope all get in here and they're like,
yeah,
take it down.
It was terrible. It was terrible. But yeah. So Jaden started high school. Ashley was telling me about that a little bit.
He did.
And she's not doing very well with it, but
I'm not. I really not. I do have really bad anxiety, and I was just talking to Jody, and her psychiatrist side wanted to come out so bad. I have really bad anxiety to where I throw myself into like panic attacks, and it's triggered by getting older and my son getting older, and the older they get, the more control you lose of them, and it's scary. And he started high school.
You could always you could just lock him in a room. I mean, it's fine. People do it all the time.
It doesn't help.
I mean, they eventually get arrested, but yeah.
It doesn't help. We went out to dinner with an older coworker that we, or older by like ex-coworker, not she's younger than me, but and she told me that she was looking at his back to school pictures, and she is like, "You need to lock him away. He looks like he's going to be a heartbreaker." Like, I was like, oh my god.
Aww.
And Jaden is like one of the most sensitive. Yeah, he's so sweet, isn't he, Jody? He's like so sensitive.
He is. He had his first little girlfriend for a small period of time.
And she broke his heart, so.
Yeah. So, piss on her. We don't need her anyway.
Oh, I love her. Stop it. I love her so much.
I'm very upset that she broke Jaden's heart. It's no different like
the girl.
Carson's. Yeah, the girl. Who are you talking about?
Oh, you're talking about my coworker. I was like, I love her so much.
No, I'm not saying piss on your coworker. I'm saying piss on the girl that broke Jaden's heart.
I know. Terrible. But they're 14.
So Carson had his first little breakup. Of course, he's too young to be dating, and that's what he calls it, is dating. He's still in elementary school. But like, I went to Mom's and picked him up, and he wouldn't talk. Like, he was that upset. He's like, I'll tell you in the car. And we get in the car, and he's like, Devin broke up with me. And I was like, oh my god. I was like, it'll be okay. And I said, what will make it better? And he's like, McDonald's. So we went to McDonald's. And he got a cheeseburger and a milkshake, and then his broken heart was healed.
Listen, side talk, this family over there in Virginia, them and McDonald's is so funny.
I do not like McDonald's. I'm burnt out on them. I'm sorry. I don't think that their food is very good. I think that it's overpriced and gross. But my husband would eat it every day if he could. My kids would eat it every day if I let them.
Oh, I can't.
They're obsessed.
So when they were
all
here,
the time.
I had to. We go up to Indian Lake all the time, and I had to take them to the McDonald's up there. It's right on the lake, and like they have ducks you can just throw your fries at, and like you can sit outside on the water and stuff like that. You can drive your boat up to the docks and get off and go to McDonald's if you have a boat, as well as Taco Bell, and they absolutely love feeding the ducks. Carson's a little free spirit. He's so cute and wild at the same time. And today is his birthday.
Yes, today is Carson's birthday. It is. He is officially 10 years old. No. And I was like, congratulations, buddy. You're now in double digits. You're getting old. And he was like, yay. And I was like, you say that now. But it's like, no more single digits.
None.
Yeah.
He reminds me of, have you seen Talladega Nights with Will Ferrell?
Yes.
The
Yeah.
kids, I'm all jacked up on Mountain Dew. I swear to
Yeah,
God, that
that's
is
Carson.
he was here one time and he was like, "Who wants to kiss me on the mouth?" I was like, "What?"
I know, he cracks me up. He's
He
so
is
funny.
so funny.
He so he
Oh, oh.
wow. So Nathan had to come in here, and now we can't, which we'll talk about the shadow thing in a second, but he just had to come in here and just let us know, too bad it's his stepson's birthday, but it's also Adam Sandler's birthday. I don't know why he
Oh,
felt the
I did
need to
not know
come in
that.
here.
He's like, let
Yeah,
me
so
just
happy
drop
birthday,
that
Adam
one.
Sandler, but not that I don't, I doubt that Adam Sandler's ever going to listen to us, but whatever.
I
I mean,
love
he
him so
might one day,
much.
who knows? He might like true crime, who knows? But we were talking about earlier, like, I don't know how many of you all have noticed, and how many of you all can count how many episodes that Nathan's shadow goes by randomly through here. I don't know why. It's the same thing when I was on live before. He always finds the need to do the noisiest shit that he possibly can, like vacuum or
He
get
said, I
power
got
tools
shit to
out.
do.
Yeah, he's like, I got shit to do, and I'm like, but why do you pick then? Like, I don't understand. His timing is, yeah. So we had literally talked about earlier. We were gonna make it like a Where's Waldo, except Where's Nathan, and how many times you can spot Nathan's shadow going.
Bonus points if you can tell us what direction he's walking.
Yes,
Or
and
which
what room he's
room.
going into.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what second in the clip that he now the birthday clip doesn't count. the Adam Sandler
We
birthday
just gave
moment
it
doesn't
away.
count. Yeah, we gave that away, but yeah, yeah. So it's Carson's birthday.
It is.
Colin had band on Friday, which was comical. His mom went to that. She stayed for the whole game this time.
Oh,
I can't get away without doing a mom story.
you got to.
And I know. So our football team is really good this year. Like,
Oh,
they
good.
are undefeated right now. They absolutely mutilated the team we played last week. It was 42-0. And I mean, they
Wow.
went all out. Like, yeah, it was pretty impressive, but I mean, obviously, me being me, I was like, I would love to see the other team at least score. Like, I mean, this is getting sad. And my mom just looks at me.
She's like, give him a
I've got it on
point.
video too. I sent it to my mods in our little mod group chat, and she was like, "This is getting sad and boring."
That's terrible. Just imagine being on that side. Like, if I were the parents, I'm like, I'm ready to go. This is...
Oh, I felt sorry for him. But apparently that other team, they used to have a really big team, and they don't this year. Like, new people took over, so there's no communication between, like, the coaches and parents. So nobody, they don't really have a team. They didn't even have a marching band. Like,
Oh.
hardly. Their stands, like, I bet you, I'm not exaggerating when I say they may have had 20 people in it. Like,
Oh,
there was
man.
hardly anybody there for them. So I felt really bad for them. I was at one point cheering the other team on because I just wanted them to score. Just
Oh,
like
you're
one
so
time, I felt
sweet.
so bad. Like, it was terrible. It was so bad. So we have a really good team, but I felt really bad for the other
That's
team.
awesome.
And when I stood up and cheered them on, Colin was like, "Mom, are you aware you were standing up for the other team?" I was like, "Yes, son. I am aware that I did that because this is." Mimi said it right. This is getting sad and boring.
They need some. They need some love. But
I
football
know
was
that we're
the
not having fun
theme.
anymore.
It was
Yeah.
NFL's opening weekend. And if you don't
Did
know,
y'all watch?
oh, I was gonna say if they don't know, Jody knows, but we are diehard NFL fans. Don't come for me. We're Steelers fans. But my husband's got Steelers tattoos. We've got a Steelers shower curtain, like Steelers memorabilia. Like we've been to a few games. It's yeah. So we live for NFL, and we watch all the games, not just the Steelers games. So we just love football. So
They do.
yeah. If you
They
caught
do.
the Lions winning in overtime last night, that's why I'm so tired and look like crap right now.
She doesn't look
It
like
was
crap.
so.
But
It was such a good overtime.
yeah.
Anyway,
As much as I would love to sit here and say that we're going to talk about football, that's not what we're here for. We are here for true crime, and this is a case that was requested by some. Do you remember who requested this one? Do you know? Hold on, she's breaking out her neck.
you're gonna put me on the spot here.
I love it. She's like, oh my God, you're going to put me on the
You're
spot
gonna
here.
put me on the spot, and then.
So
But
while she's looking,
yeah, I was gonna say
oh, go
continue
ahead.
on introducing who we're doing.
Good God. So, a lot of people, it's funny when I talk to people, they talk about why do you have this big interest in true crime and everything? And it's like, well, if you think about it, a lot of historical events that have happened that we teach in history are related to true crime. It's
Facts.
just a part of history. And this is taught in schools. Obviously, people don't go into the depth that they go into, like we're going to, because I like to dissect childhood. I like to paint the picture as to why people are the way that they are. And sometimes there's just no warning signs for it at all. But we're talking about Bonnie and Clyde, and it's a really historical thing. It's not going to be super morbid and graphic like what we normally do. Now, there is some morbid parts to it, but yeah, most people know who Bonnie and Clyde are, but they don't know all the nitty gritty that's associated with it.
There's a lot, and to be truthfully honest, I'm super excited because everybody's heard of them. You just don't get the details of what they did.
Yeah.
Oh, I cannot figure
now,
out. I get suggestions on all different platforms. So
we do. So don't come after her just because she
I
doesn't
know.
know.
I'm
But
so
yes,
sorry, you
this
guys.
was
We
a
should have been prepared.
requested case. I think that someone had commented on one of our videos
That
and
might have been it.
requested it.
Yeah.
Don't worry, we'll get your shout out.
We
It
will.
might not be in this episode because Bonnie and Clyde is a very big case. I don't know that a lot of people have covered it in true crime podcasts, to be completely honest.
I really don't
Obviously,
think
there's
so.
stories through the History Channel, through there's all kinds of little documentaries, and if you look it up, there's a lot of information. There's some conflicting and contradicting each other because this is one of those that's really talked about, but I don't think it's really recognized as much in like what our subject, pertains to. A lot of people want to go for big criminals like Ted Bundy or Charles Manson or, so on and so forth. But I don't think a lot of like true crime podcast people have covered Bonnie and Clyde.
I don't think
So,
I know
yeah.
people have, but I don't recall coming across any that have.
Yeah. So this is going to be, it's a big case. There's going to be multiple parts. It's been a long time since it hasn't been a long time, but it's been a hot minute since we've done a multi-part case.
That damn
Last
Dahmer.
one we did, I think, was Dahmer. Yeah, Dahmer. All right. So, yeah. All right, Ashley, so she knows who they are. She doesn't know really much about them because she lives under a rock. I feel like that about everybody that doesn't know these things. But
I feel
anywho,
like that's what keeps
I'm
this
going to let
podcast
you
interesting.
decide. Do you want me to start with Bonnie or do you want me to start with Clyde?
Oh, ladies first.
Ladies first. I knew she was going to say that. So we'll start with Miss Bonnie. So Bonnie Elizabeth Parker.
Oh.
We are going to the Great Depression era. So that's the time frame that we're in. We're in the late 20s, early 30s. But she was born October the 1st, 1910.
That's my mom's birthday.
Is that Aunt Sue's
Well,
birthday?
not the year. Not the year.
Well, obviously. But
yes, October 1st. Oh, that's so cool. Okay.
Yes, she was an October baby. I'm probably not going to say this town correctly, but Rowena, Texas is the town that she was. We go to Texas a lot. It just dawned on me. Like, we're in there all the time.
We've already talked
Texas,
about it.
what y'all got going on down there?
Something in the water.
There's something in the water. But she was born to Emma and Charles Parker. She was a middle child. So she had an older brother and a younger sister, and then Bonnie was right in the middle. Now, her father passed away when she was 4 years old. I don't know how old he was when he died. I imagine pretty young. People didn't live really long, luxurious lives back then. So.
Did they say what he died from? Because there were, a lot of diseases and stuff got people back then.
No, I'm not sure. I don't know if he had, any, he could have had any illness. I don't really know exactly what he died from, but I do know she was 4 when he died. She was a small child.
A baby.
Now, this resulted in her mother moving the family closer to Dallas, is where so they relocated. They moved to what was known as Cement City. I don't know why they called it that. So if anybody in Texas has any idea why that was called what it was, I'm just really curious why it was called that.
You
I
don't
don't
have to be in Texas if
maybe
you know. Let us know.
yeah, if you know, like I'm just really curious, like why they called it that. Like I don't know, it just kind of went. It's different. I don't know why it was called that, but yeah. So Cement City, and this is where Bonnie's grandparents were. They moved in with her grandparents. She attended local schools there, and apparently was a really bright student. She was very studious. She achieved a lot. She loved poetry. She loved
Oh.
literature. She was also very pretty, like very exceptionally pretty for her time.
I was
Listen,
looking
don't
at the
come
pictures
after
above.
me when I say this, because when I look at her pictures with like later on, spoiler alert, obviously her and Clyde end up together if you didn't know that. But
What?
um yeah, this is like a morbid, fucked up love story, but um this was bad boy attraction gone bad very quickly. But anywho, before
Oh.
we dive down all of that, when I look at her pictures, because there's pictures out there of her and Clyde, and she's got her like cigarette sticking out of her mouth, and she's like holding guns and stuff. She looks really grungy, and I'm like, I don't
Oh.
understand what you found to be really pretty. And listen, you can come after me if you want to, but I'm like, I don't see it.
You don't think
I
she was a
like,
Betty?
no, no, she definitely wasn't a Betty. We learned that in Mansfield, by the
Never
way.
knew
So
that until then.
yes,
Yeah.
we have audio recording. We captured an EVP of a spirit. We were sitting in
Side
one
note.
of the room. Well, it was the room that they used to mimic the theater for the Shawshank Redemption, and they had that very clip up
And
from
it was just a
Shawshank
still
Redemption.
picture of a woman in the 30s or the 40s.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And we were I can't remember what we said, but we were talking about her, and we got an audio recording of a spirit, and they say she's a Betty.
We asked
And
if you
that
knew
we
who that was, and they said Betty. And so we're all like, okay. And we looked at what
That's
movie
it.
that was from, and I was like, no, her name's not Betty. And then I looked up what a Betty was, and people called beautiful women around that time era a Betty. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, that is
Yeah.
insane.
So that's what she's talking about. That's
Yeah.
what yeah. So no, she was not a
I
Betty.
was trying to
In
say
my
hip.
opinion anyway. Y'all can
Yeah.
come at me if you want to, but I don't think that Bonnie Parker was a Betty at all. Like yeah.
She's going to haunt this
Yeah.
podcast now. Thanks a lot.
Nah, we're good. We're good. We're all right. Now, she decided because of her beauty that she wanted to be an actress, and that was what her goal was, that she would one day be in the films, she would be in the pictures one day. And there was a period of time where she did have photographs made of her, like posing, model poses. That was a little bit provocative for the time, women showing off their shoulders in lingerie and stuff.
Ooh.
That was a scandalous thing. So she did pose, but nothing ended up coming out of it, obviously. But yeah. Now, during her second year of high school, she started seeing a guy named Roy Thornton, and he was one of her classmates. And they became high school sweethearts in September 1926. This was just days before Bonnie turned 16, and this wasn't anything unusual for the time. They got married.
Oh.
Most women were married 16, 17.
Wow.
She also got a tattoo with her and Roy's names on her thigh.
Ooh, she's bad.
Oh, she's bad. She got that thigh. That was her tramp stamp of the time. Yeah, she's the whole reason why you don't get people's names tattooed on you, and she's the reason why they're like, oh yeah, that's bad luck. That went bad so quickly. Like that's why. Bonnie
Spoiler
ruined
alert,
that for
she
everybody.
doesn't stay with that guy that she got tattooed on her.
Yeah, Yeah, that whole thing. I don't know if he got the tattoo. He probably didn't. If you guys know
Oh
this, please
God.
let me know because I don't think he did. I think it was her. She was like head over heels, and she's like, "Look what I got," which I'm surprised that they did tattoos during that time. I don't know what era like tattoos started becoming a big thing. So yeah, I should have done my history homework beforehand. But anywho,
I think back
you
then
look like you're
tattoos.
thinking.
Well, I'm thinking because you said you don't know if back then, but I'm thinking of military men back then, and I think tattoos were a thing, but not
For
really so much
military men,
for
but for
men.
women,
Yeah, not very much for women. Yeah, I think you're right.
I feel like that's one of those things like you know how they had the underground like bars and stuff to hide when they were drinking
The
during that time and gambling
speakeasies.
and stuff. I feel like they had underground tattoo
Listen,
parlors. We didn't learn about that in history.
we did. Oh my God, are you kidding? I had the greatest high school history teachers, and we brought everything to life, and I loved it. We had a speakeasy, and we learned how to do the Charleston. It was awesome.
That's so
Yeah.
cool. We never did anything cool like that where I went to school, but yeah. So obviously, so she gets married. She's got her and her husband's, you know, names on her thigh.
Lord.
And I bet you would have never guessed that this marriage turned to shit very quickly. Apparently, old Roy had a tendency to be very physically abusive, and there was a lot of proof to that, which is really sad.
Yeah.
Because Bonnie, as you can see, she didn't have a bad childhood. Her dad wasn't present because he died when she was young, but she didn't have any early warning signs that the future that will come later on was where she was heading. She had a perfectly normal childhood, so for her to experience this is really sad. I don't
Yeah.
think that there was any warning signs to her ahead of time that there was red flags there, you know, but he was very physically abusive with her. He was also very unsupportive in her dream to become an actress. He was like a Debbie Downer,
No.
you know. So I'm sure that mental abuse, physical abuse, all the things.
And divorce
Their
wasn't a huge
unions,
thing, if at all, back then.
that was a really rare thing. And here's
Yeah.
the thing. Bonnie, spoiler alert, and Roy were never legally divorced ever.
Ooh.
So she when you know,
Juicy.
yeah. Um Now, obviously their marriage soon fell apart. They did separate. And this is because uh, Thornton ended up being arrested for robbery and he was in prison. So she ended up moving back in with her grandmother
The
for a
irony.
period of time. Huh?
I said the irony.
I know, the irony. Yeah.
He,
Well, in a sense, I'm kind of like, if he really was, which again, I imagine that this was probably all really true. Like, he really was a abusive prick. Then, yeah, he needs to be behind bars. But
I met him robbing
again,
banks.
just like you, oh, I know the irony. We learned very quickly Bonnie has a type. Yeah.
Don't we all?
She, she has a type. But yeah. Now, her and Thornton, when he ended up being arrested for this whole robbery thing, they never saw each other in person ever again.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So she's back with her grandmother, okay? Now we're going to talk about Clyde, okay? Because obviously these two end up meeting, right? And they cause quite a fucking catastrophe
A ruckus.
together, but
They call it ruckus.
So Clyde Barrow, his situation is a lot different than Bonnie. Now, I can't say that Bonnie came from like a very financially stable family, but she had a very normal childhood.
Okay.
No red flags showing that she's going down the path of destruction. Okay?
Caring, supportive.
Now, he was born March.
March. She turned German.
I don't know where that new, yeah. He was born on March 24th, 1909, in Tellico, Texas. He was the fifth out of 7 children.
Oof.
So he came from a much larger family. He was born into a poor but very close-knit family. Apparently, his family's farm fell due to drought, which we know during that time frame was a really common thing, and that's
Yeah.
sad. Um, and they eventually moved to Dallas. Remember, that's where Bonnie ended up moving to. And Clyde was a small but unassuming boy. He attended school until the age of 16, the same age that Bonnie ended up leaving school because she never actually finished school.
That's crazy.
He had the ambition to become a musician. He actually learned how to play the guitar and the saxophone.
Ooh. I
Yes,
love
he
the saxophone.
well, if you think about it, they both had that aspiring, goal to both go into like the spotlight, the entertainment industry. So
I didn't put two
I
and
can
two
kind of
together.
see why they would, yeah. They both had potential. And if they would have just taken this potential, that goal, and just went off of that, they probably would have lived a lot longer than what they did.
They went in the
Like,
a total opposite direction, but okay.
yeah, yeah. Well, under the influence of his older brother Buck, he
Book.
became quite the little shit. Yeah, he started crime as a small teenager. He started with petty thief, and then he kind of went, into more bigger things like stealing cars and doing armed robberies. He gradually got there. He started off with like stealing turkeys and chickens and from people, and yeah. Well, I mean, this was the Great Depression. I don't know what he planned on doing
That
with
stuff
them,
was
but
valuable. No, it's funny, but you are absolutely right. That stuff was like
I mean,
gold.
it was a value. Like,
Yeah.
he was probably like, thank God we don't got to eat beans for like the 20th
I'm gonna
time,
go steal
in
their
a row.
chickens.
Like, we've got chicken. Mom can decapitate this thing and fry it up later. I don't know. But they did. And a lot of families knew who he was, right? He's crawling across their fence, stealing their stealing their chickens or their turkeys or guineas or whatever, and
Lock
here they're
up the
getting their guns
birds.
trying to shoot this little shit that's trying to climb back over the fence. Like, yeah.
I mean,
All right.
people gotta eat.
Yeah, this is true. Well, he was first arrested. Obviously, you have your criminals, and then you have your really bad criminals that's just not really good at it. And for some reason, Clyde, as we learned, is not a very good criminal because he always gets caught. Not that I would ever influence people to be in the life of crime. But it's just not, not suited for everybody. And he's one of those. And he got caught at age 17. And spoiler alert, he doesn't stop. Like, he can't grasp that he's just not a good criminal. Like, he's not very good at it at all. But he's arrested in late 1926. He's 17 years old, and this was because he ran from police when they confronted him about a rental car that he had not been returned. And he decided he would go, he ran. Now, his second arrest, the second time he was ever arrested, was with his brother Buck, and this was for possession of stolen turkeys. Yes. You would get arrested for that back then. I would imagine you'd still get arrested for it. I wonder how many people in today's time call in and they're like, somebody just stole my whole flock of turkeys. Actually, well, I mean, really, think about it.
Well, I don't know. I wouldn't question somebody stealing it over like an animal getting it. You wouldn't know. How did they know somebody stole it versus something eating it?
I could understand if perhaps like a coyote got a hold of like one, maybe two, but let's say your whole flock got.
Did it say he stole a whole flock of turkeys?
No, it just says for possession of stolen turkeys. It doesn't specify that he had 8. I don't know.
Maybe he was trying to free Tom.
Who's Tom?
Tom the turkey.
Oh my God. Okay, anywho. Now he did, believe it or not, there was some periods of time where he decided that maybe crime wasn't the best choice for him, and maybe he should pursue an actual job where he's actually paid for the work that he has done and not stealing it from somebody else. Like he tried. But that only went from about 1927 to 1929. So he worked for about 2 years, and he's like, "This sucks. Like, I'm not having fun anymore."
This is not for me.
It, he's like, "It's much easier if I just steal it from other people that have
Is
worked like
it?
I'm working right now." Yeah. Well, in his mind, it was.
Good Lord. Okay,
Um,
Clyde.
but he would crack safes. He learned how to crack into safes. Yeah.
He
He
learned that
robbed
from his
stores,
brother.
and he continued to steal cars. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is Clyde Barrow. That's the type of guy he is.
So is
No.
his last name
Yeah.
Barrow? Like I'm going to borrow this?
Clyde Barrow.
Okay.
That's what he meant. That's what he was doing the whole time. I'm just
borrowing.
your keys. I'm just borrowing this car. I'm just gonna borrow, the safe. I might not return it, but I'm gonna borrow it permanently.
Permanently. God, calm down.
Yes. Now, by late 1929, this is when he's 20 years old, he was already a fugitive from the law. Like, he was wanted for, he had a spotlight on his back. He wanted for arrest because he was known for several robberies of stores and all this. Like,
jeez Louise.
What an accomplishment, sir. 20 years old and already, like, and not by women, by the police. Like, yeah. Yeah.
Wanted.
So, two completely different people. Well, two completely different backgrounds, we should say. Both have kind of the same goals, but two completely different backgrounds.
I don't know.
The look on your face.
I know. She just seems like she wants it to happen more than he's like, like, I'm gonna keep doing this, and she's like, oh, well, this could happen.
If you read about it, like if you look, so different articles talk about when they crossed paths and met each other differently. Some sources say that like he was smitten on her the moment he laid his. Some sources say that they met through a mutual friend. I go more towards the mutual friend. I don't know who that friend would have been, but whatever. There's all kinds of different stories leading up to how they met.
Okay.
But what I think is more accurate, again, I could be wrong. We weren't there. We don't know. If you know, let us know. But like, if you know for a fact that's how they met, yeah, we're curious to know. But they met through a mutual friend in January of 1930. She was 19 years old at the time. He was 20. Obviously, he was already an ex-con.
Like they were 10 years apart?
Do what?
They were 10 years apart?
No, they weren't 10 years apart. She was 19, he was 20.
Oh, I swore you said she was 30. No, you said 1930. Okay, never mind.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, you were like, they were 10 years apart. No. Now, he had made a vow to himself that he was never going to go to jail ever again. However, he didn't make the vow that he wasn't ever going to stop doing crime again. He just made the vow that he thought he wouldn't ever get caught again, and that didn't work out in his favor. Because the two ended up spending a lot of time together. They fell in love. They loved each other, yes. And while they are, going out on their dates, and I just picture Clyde being the guy that probably dined and dashed a lot. Like, that's just, given his history, that's what I think.
He's going to tell you he's got to go to the bathroom, and he went and robbed the cash register of the restaurant and then came back and said, there, I paid the bill, let's go.
Yeah, that's probably exactly how it went. But he ended up getting arrested and convicted of several criminal charges pertaining to auto theft while they were together.
He likes his cars.
So now not only is Bonnie's husband behind bars, but now her boyfriend is behind bars.
Oh, I'm seeing the type. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. I don't know if they ever shared a cell. I don't know if they ever crossed paths.
That'd be weird.
Yeah, could you imagine? I'm banging your wife.
Like just in small talk, they were like, "Oh, I'm in love with this
Yeah.
girl. Oh, sounds like my wife."
Yeah, yeah. Well, while he is back in prison, he ends up going to prison. He begins to think, I made this vow to myself that I wasn't going to end up back here. So I think I'm going to escape.
Oh
Yeah.
God.
So he attempted that. It did not work out in his favor. Unfortunately, he was caught. Well, I shouldn't say unfortunately. Unfortunately for him, he was caught. And
Yeah.
obviously back then they were a lot harsher on criminals than what they are in today's time. Like, you know, I don't necessarily agree with all the conditions that they had back then, but compared to now, I feel like reforming prisoners probably went a lot better than it does in today's time, if
Yeah.
that makes sense. That's just my personal opinion, but yeah. Um, Obviously by this time, Bonnie's in love, so she is absolutely devastated, heartbroken, having fucking panic attacks and all the things because her boyfriend's behind bars. You would think that she would sit back and be like, you know, dating's not working out for me. It's very evident that I have this magnet for criminals or assholes, and maybe I should go and look elsewhere. Or maybe I should give myself some time because I'm still technically legally married, but she doesn't do that. No, none of those thoughts come to her mind.
None.
Instead, she thinks that she needs to smuggle a gun into the prison to help him escape. I love the. Did you know any of this?
I know nothing about them, and the fact that like her thought process that a gun is gonna help him escape, like take the man a freaking shovel or a spoon or something like. You're just gonna like run through people. I guess you could run through people shooting.
Well, you know, I don't think that they had metal detectors. It's not like in today's time. Like, you know, I,
No, I
listen,
get that. It probably would
my
have been easy to
uncle.
smuggle in there.
Well, my uncle, our uncle, I should say. I love my uncle, but he's made really lifelong terrible choices for himself, and he has been in and out of the system pretty much my entire life. I don't think Ashley's met him like once or twice. She's not really been around him, but I
I've
would
been
go with
around him
Nana and Papa to
twice
go
and talked
visit.
to him on the phone once. Mom
Yeah,
met him for the very first time when we found you guys. Mom met him behind bars.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I would go with Nana and Papa to go see him. I didn't go all the time. But I would go with them, and I'm just thinking about the times that he's been in prison. Like they would in today's time, there's no way that that would happen. Not
No.
to say that
Oh
people aren't
no.
sneaky and get contraband in, because they do.
But a
Listen, I
gun.
work in a state facility, and I know not a gun, no, but like we would have to go, and they would even like drug test you before you could go in. Not like make you take a urine test, but they would take this swab thing, and it kind of sucked because you can technically walk through drugs anywhere and not know it. But like they would swab all over your body, and if you had been in any contact with drugs, you couldn't go back to go visit your loved ones. They would pat you down, like they would do extensive, they would run their fingers through my hair and everything, and I'm just
Oh
thinking
my god.
things are so different now compared to back then, because she successfully got this gun in there. I don't
Listen.
think that they patted people down like they do now. It's like, oh cool, you want to go back here and see them, and you would be right there like face to face with them, like they're just right there behind bars. Like I guess you could touch one another or whatever. It's nothing
Serious
compared
things
to.
probably didn't happen to where they had to beef up security like that. Like, I thought I got molested enough at freaking going through TSA at the airport, but good lord, you going through security at the jail sounds terrible.
Well, it's like, oh, it was terrible. Yeah,
I
that was
can't go
awful.
through
Like,
x-rays because of my medical devices that are attached to me. So when we went to Vegas, I had to go and they had to get a female person. They had to pat me down. My bag had to go around and they had to search it. And they had to swipe my hands, which I'm sure the jail does too. They swipe your hands to make sure there's no like chemicals on there. I'm not sure what
oh, I
kind of
mean, it's
chemicals, but
really
it's
extensive.
crazy. And like full
So,
on
and
molested me. It was terrible. I told my husband, I was like, I never said thank you for being molested before.
Oh my God.
I was like, thank
Well,
you, have a great
and
day.
you have to even, before you can even go see people now, I'm sure every state's different, but you have to be cleared before, like, you have to fill out a form,
Yeah.
send it off. You have to have your ID. Like, it's so different now. So
Yeah.
that's why, like, back then, I guess you would just go and be like, I'm here to see Clyde Barrow. And they'd be like, cool, okay, go on back. Like, you
I
know
wonder if
what I
there's a
mean? Like,
difference
it's,
between prisons and jail, because my little brother, I went to go visit him in jail for a short stint that he was in there. And I did have to fill out the form and I had to have my ID, but that was pretty much it. We had to go through a metal detector, but that was it. I bet prison's
I think
worse.
prison's worse, but they have way more freedom within the prison, believe it or not. Like, going and visiting them, they do more extensive searches and stuff. But
Okay.
yeah, it's just wild how things are so different now. And it just,
So
you know
she
what I
got a
mean?
gun
Like, it
in.
just, yeah, but she did. She got a gun in.
Insane.
And on March 11th of 1930, Clyde decides he's going to take this gun and put it into action to try to escape
I gotta
again.
escape before my birthday.
He tried with some cellmates. I think him and a couple other cellmates were going to attempt to break out. Obviously, this plan, I about said plan, God, I can't talk. This plan went to hell in a handbasket. Bet you never would have guessed that. And they were captured a week later.
Oh, only a week?
Yeah, he got out, but he was captured a whole week later.
You
And
went back,
again,
Clyde. You
he
failed.
went right back. And you have to remember, though, prison, I don't want to call it reforming. They could do what they wanted to inmates back then. It's not like now where there's all these laws and, like, safety of inmates in place. And listen, I'm not justifying abuse to anybody at all, but they really laid it on him. You know what I mean?
Aw.
Like, you didn't do things like that back then. They'd beat the immortal shit out of you, and that's what they did. They beat the living fucking hell out of him, and they're like, all right, you're back. He also was sentenced to a 14-year hard labor, and was eventually transferred to Eastham. I guess it's Eastham State Farm. And unfortunately, regardless of all the things that he's done, he was unfortunately, trigger warning if you are bothered by sexual assault, but he was sexually assaulted repeatedly by an inmate
Oh,
there.
that's terrible.
Yeah, which is really sad. That
Yeah.
regardless of what you've done, that does not justify that type of trauma.
No.
Period.
You're already in there to serve
It
your
happened.
time. That's like extra punishment, I feel. That's terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know much about this other inmate. Now, if you look it up and you read about him being incarcerated within this prison, everywhere you read it talks about the sexual assault. If you watch some of the made-for-TV movies, like the History Channel did, it shows a clip of that. And I watched the remake that they did a few years ago, which I highly recommend after you listen to this and watching it. It's a 2-part series. There's part 1 and part 2 because there's a lot to Bonnie and Clyde. They touch base on it, but I can't remember if the second part they show that or not. But he ended up having it. Like, obviously, he had all he could take of this sexual assault because this guy kept targeting him over and over, and he ended up luring him in the showers, and he killed him with a pipe. He beat him to death. He crushed his skull.
Oh, man.
But some articles don't say anything about that, but others talk about that, which would make this Clyde's first murder, because he hadn't killed anybody before then. He just
Already locked
robbed
up.
places.
I mean, yeah.
He's already locked up. Another inmate ended up taking the fall for this, though.
Oh, no.
Which makes you wonder.
On purpose, or
Let's say
they put it on him?
I think he did it on purpose.
I did it?
Yeah, I did it.
That's weird.
Yeah, well, what if that guy had already had like a lifelong sentence? I don't know. It just makes you
What does he
wonder.
have to
But
lose, type of thing? Yeah.
what does he have to lose? But then part of it is it makes you wonder. Like, had Clyde, let's say hypothetically, had he been caught for killing this guy, which, no offense, you can come at me if you want to, the guy kind of deserved it. Like, like, you know what I mean?
I
But
don't
let's just say
disagree.
hypothetically, had he been caught for that, would he have been given a life sentence? Would all his future things been nipped in the bud? It just makes you wonder.
It really does. Yeah.
But we talk about a lot of cases that have happened more modern, right? Like other serial killers, because they're regardless if it's just bank robberies or whatever, they are classified as serial killers. They killed more than one person, which makes them serial killers. A lot of them do things just like Clyde has done, and they get away with it, and they're not held to the proper standard that they're supposed to, and then look what happens.
That's terrible. Where were the guards when this was happening?
It's,
That's what's crazy to me.
well, again, this is probably a start to that foundation as to why we have law safety precautions in place for inmates, regardless of what they've done. This
Regardless,
is probably,
I've
you
never
know what
been,
I mean?
so I don't even know, like, if guards stick around in the shop. Like, I can't talk on it, not being.
They're supposed to.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're supposed to. Back then, they probably didn't. But, and I mean, they may probably were to. I would imagine that fights and stuff broke out all the time, just like they do now.
Oh,
absolutely. You just got to think about the era that, compare, from now and then back then. It just makes you wonder. Boys and men
are still boys and men.
So, to avoid hard labor, because as I said before, he's been sentenced to working in the hard labor fields, and he doesn't want to work for the man.
Oh.
He's well, it's true, he doesn't want to work for the man.
I know people like
he
that.
is a typical 100% antisocial who you tell them that they need to do this to reform, and he's going to do the exact opposite. Like,
jeez.
Clyde should really be the poster child for antisocial personality disorder. And he decides that he's going to purposely, are you ready? Take off 2 of his toes. He cut 2 of his toes off to prevent working in the field.
Stop it right now. Oh my God, that's extra.
He did. I don't know if he had somebody else do it. I don't know if he did it himself, but he sure as fuck did, because he was bound and determined he was not going to do anything that the government was telling him, yes, sir, you have to do this. So he was like, no, the fuck I don't. Let me cut 2 of my toes off. Like, yeah. And he did, which resulted in him having a permanent limp for the rest of his life. Little did he know.
Wow.
This is what kills me. Yeah, little did he know that his mother had already successfully petitioned for his release, and he was set free 6 days later. Yeah.
That's hilarious.
That's what he gets. I'm sorry. Like, I feel bad that he was sexually assaulted all the time in the prison. Like, that's really sad. But if you would have just done what you were supposed to do, you would have been let go just 6 days later, and you wouldn't have had that limp for the rest of your life. And you would have your fucking toes. Like, but
that's
no, he couldn't do that. Yeah. Now, he was paroled from Eastham on February the 2nd of 1932. And obviously, if you talk to a lot of people that have been in prison or jail settings, they will talk about how that changes people. And we see it all the time. We use the term institutionalized, and it really does change.
Oh, absolutely.
Prison is what you make of it. It's either you take away from it for better, right? I'm sure you still witness terrible things, or you become really institutionalized and you continue to commit crimes.
Yeah.
His sister, Marie, said, this is a direct quote from her, something awful sure must have happened to him in prison because he wasn't the same person when he got out. Which is really sad if you think about it. But at the same time, it's like he kind of did it to himself. Yeah. So it makes you wonder, did the whole incident that happened in the prison, is that what made him go down the spree that we're soon going to learn that he goes down? Or was he just a cold-blooded killer all along, and it just took that to bring out that impulse? It really makes you wonder.
Yeah.
Food for thought. Yeah.
For sure.
Now, fellow inmate, he meets somebody who will later on play a role. Ralph Fultz. He said he watched Clyde change from a schoolboy to a rattlesnake.
Oof. Prison did not do him good.
Now, after prison, his career consisted of robbing grocery stores and gas stations, bank robberies, which ended up attributing him to the Borrow Gang, which we will talk about next episode. Okay, well, I'm not going to touch base on it. And this, I love it. She's like,
you guys,
about more. We'll dive more into the Borrow Gang. It just will fit better in the next segment. But yeah, the Borrow Gang. Now, his favorite weapon was the M1918 Browning automatic rifle. That was his favorite gun, and that's what he would use. His goal in life, according to other people, was not to necessarily gain fame or fortune from robbing banks, but to seek revenge against the Texas prison system for the abuses that he had sustained while serving time.
I mean,
but what is robbing the banks and stuff doing? Like, you get what that's not, I don't know. Now, after his release from prison, he and Ralph Fultz, I told you he would come back up again, they began a series of robberies. Like, they kind of buddied up. They had like a buddy system. Their goal was to collect enough money to basically go after the prison. I don't really think that was their goal. I think that they just said that to make themselves look good. I think that they, honestly, I think he was addicted to the thrill of robbing. That's my opinion. That's just there's my clinical opinion coming out. But yeah. Now on April 19th of 1932, Bonnie joins in. Okay, she is now joined in. And they go to a hardware store.
How did they meet back up? In which they had all does it say?
It doesn't specify how they met back up, but she really did love him. They did write each other while he was in prison. I do know that. That is factual. So I'm assuming when he got out, she just kind of, immediately ran back to him. Her mother and grandmother wasn't happy about that, I'll tell you that much. But
so now we know she didn't learn.
Goes right back. Yeah. Now they ended up going to this hardware store with the intent of stealing firearms. Okay. This failed. They were caught.
Hardware store
and Bonnie was arrested. Bonnie was arrested. Oh. How often did you hear about females being arrested in the 30s? Not very often. Mm-mm. Now, Fultz was also arrested, and he was tried, convicted. He served his time, but he never, rejoined the gang, which, again, we'll touch base more on the other people that will come in and play a role in the whole Bonnie and Clyde shenanigans and clusterfuck that they do. But Bonnie has been arrested, and she is currently behind bars. And while she was waiting her trial, she would write poetry, and it's like, if you would have just fucking stuck to that and not go down this path, your life would have been so much different.
What happened to acting?
Write poetry and read to help pass time. And this is where we are going to leave you until part 2, and then we will dive into Bonnie's trial, as well as the many more armed robberies that they do, because they do many.
It's going to get real from here.
I'm going to leave you.
Cliffhanger.
Mm-hmm. Cliffhanger, yes. We'll talk more about the Borrow Gang. We'll talk more about how her trial played out, because it's really interesting how Bonnie manages to get herself out of this whole shenanigans.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
so into it. I hope
I'm
everybody else
so
is.
glad. I know you're like, no, I want to know now. So,
I love
all
it.
right, Ash. Meanwhile, so the girls won't play a part in this yet.
Not
They'll be
yet.
in later on. But what do they need to do meanwhile?
They need to find us on most social media platforms. If you like to listen, find us on Spotify. If you like to watch while you listen, we're here on YouTube.
All
Like, follow,
right. So
subscribe,
we
leave
will see you guys.
suggestions.
Yes, absolutely. Please do. No Catholic cases.
No, I can't take it. I can't.
We can't take it. No offense. We're not being mean. We just can't. All right. So we will see you guys next week.
All right. Bye.
Bye.